You're listening to Time with Fred, an inspirational broadcast with your host, speaker, and life coach, Fred Gaddy.
Hello and welcome to the Time with Fred podcast. This is a podcast that challenges your imagination of what's possible and encourages you to be the best that you can be. Today I want to come to you from a point of reflection. I've been reflecting over the past few weeks, actually, of everything that's been happening in our nation, in our society. And I see there is a lot of anger at play. Anger from political leaders, anger from the citizenry, anger from individuals, just anger in the system. And it's not only just the anger part, but it's the resulting consequence, right, that comes out of being angry. And as I reflect, I remember what comes to mind is a Bible verse that says that be angry and do not sin. And don't let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity to the devil. This is in Ephesians chapter 4, 26 to 27. And as I think about this and try to understand what the scripture verse means, I think it's so applicable in our own lives, really, not just based on what's happening in our nation, around the world, right? But it's even bringing down to our own lives. Anger is one of those powerful emotions that if we're not careful, if we don't keep a pulse on it, if we're not particularly careful about how we control or contain anger, it can cause irreparable harm. And we're seeing the effects. We're seeing what it's doing. We're seeing the backlashes of what anger or the emotion of anger can do. And as I think about this Bible verse that says, do not be angry, but do not sin, it tells me that it's not, being angry is okay, right? It's not wrong to be angry, but it goes on to say that we shouldn't let the sun go down on the anger. What does it mean? Literally, if you think about it, don't go to sleep without resolving or without addressing that root cause of what's causing that anger in you. And that's really pretty much it. Don't allow that emotion to prolong or to be extended to where it starts causing harm. And it says, do not give an opportunity to the enemy or to the devil. Means that if you allow that anger to remain in you, it can cause damage. It can destroy relationships. It can destroy careers. It can do a lot of harm. So I want to ask you a question. If you think about, the emotion of anger, there are two types, right? Or maybe three types of people, really. There are those who are engulfed by the emotion of anger, right? They just allow themselves to be sucked in. The second group of people are those who accept their emotions. They accept that they're angry, or they accept what's going on. They're aware, but they don't do anything to challenge it. So I know I'm prone to anger. I know I'm susceptible to anger. I know there's something going wrong, but then I'm not going to do anything about it. And the third groups of individuals are those who are aware, they're self-aware. They realize there's something going on, but they're able to take the right steps. They're able to manage it. So we learned that self-awareness when it comes to anger is a key, right? So in order to be able to address this emotion of anger, one, you got to know yourself. You got to know what triggers. You got to know what makes you tick, so to speak, right? And the second thing is you got to know your feelings. How do you react, or what do you do when you're angry? The third thing you want to do is how do you respond when you're angry? Are you the kind of person who just don't talk to anyone, right? And I'm like that to some extent. I don't express my feelings physically, right? I'm the kind who will sulk and process it, and so that's it. Are you the kind of person who just allows it, you just take it in, or are you the kind of person who just explodes? There are folks who, you threw your plates, you're kicking everything, you're kicking the dog and the poor cat, and you're throwing things, you fly off the handle, right? Are you that kind of person? And the fourth thing is, do you know your attitude? How do you react? What kind of attitude do you display when you're angry? So these are four questions, or four keys really, that we all need to ask ourselves as we deal with this emotion of anger. I remember a seminar I gave a few months ago, and there was a lady in that seminar, in that class, who said that she she gives into road rage. When she's driving, she's that kind of a person, right? And so before she sits behind that steering wheel, before she sits in that car, she realizes, she tells herself that, watch out, this is how you are. So she puts herself, she's aware of her reactions, which helps her deal with any type of situation on the road, right? Because she's aware, she's able to manage that emotion before she even hits the road. And that, I think, is one of the healthiest ways we really to deal with that emotion called anger. We've got to be aware of our reaction or how we respond to this emotion. So again, be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger. Do not allow your anger to prolong or to become so extended that it starts impacting not only your lives, but relationships and the people around you. How do we respond to anger? We can respond to anger in two ways. One, automatic reflexive emotions. We can respond to anger by just reacting, right? Just exploding to the feeling of anger, right? That's one of the ways we respond to anger. And the second way we can respond to anger is to be intentional about it, is to realize the behaviors and to be intentional about how we choose to construct them. So natural reflexive reactions should never overrule our ability to make the right judgment. So the fact that our bodies or our natural tendency or the fact that we have a tendency to respond or to react to our emotions does not mean that they should always be the way we respond. Right? We have to be able to master those emotions. We have to be able to overcome. We have to be able to control that emotion by being intentional about the decisions, about the way we react to that emotion of anger. So when you think about it, there are 4 ways that I think we can respond or we can deal with this emotion of anger. And I call it the STAR method. So the first thing we can do when we get angry or when we're being pushed to that place is to stop. S, the letter S, to stop. Stop and name the anger. What exactly is making you feel this way? It's okay to admit that you're angry. Many times we try to redefine our anger feelings as hurt or frustration, but that's actually counterproductive. Don't stuff your anger. Don't suppress the way you feel, because the danger of suppressing that emotion is that it doesn't go away. It's going to come back, often in very bad ways that we don't even expect it to. There are folks who, as a result of how they suppress the anger, take it out in very negative ways. Some of them even commit suicide. I can't think of how many stories I've read about people who suppressed their emotions, especially men, right? Who suppressed their emotions to the point where they ended up doing very bad things to themselves. They commit suicide, they kill their families, and I can go over story after story after story of the effect of suppressing your emotions. So when you're angry, don't suppress it. Name that anger. Admit the fact that you're angry. Right? Don't stuff your anger. It's perfectly acceptable to express that you're angry in an honest and calm way. Pay attention to the signs of anger. Some of these can include the tension in your neck, right? Or shoulders, right? Or blushing, clenching in your fists, raising in your voice. You know yourself better than anybody else. And so when you're getting to that point where you realize your emotions are spiraling out of control, you got to stop. Stop and acknowledge the way you feel. The second step in the STAR process is to think. Pause and give yourself some time out. Practice breathing exercises. There's a saying that if you're angry, breathe to 10 or count to 10, right? And if you're very, very angry, count to 100. And the notion is that by the time you get to 99 and 100, that feeling may have subsided, or that pent-up feeling might have subsided a little bit. So pause and think and give thought to what it is that is triggering that emotion of anger. Breathe. As simple as this sounds, just take very deep breaths. Do about 10 or 20. And I studied this in an emotional intelligence class that I took. Breathe. Just let in that deep air. Just breathe in and breathe out. And do that for about 10 or 20 times. And you'd realize that it helps release those pent-up feelings or that pent-up emotion that you have inside of you. And you gotta learn to be still, to take some time to think about why you're angry. And I've done this. Sometimes when you think about what's making you angry, you realize it's not really as bad as you thought it was. Right? So learn to think through, learn to stop and think about exactly what's making you feel angry. And ask yourself, am I really justified? I mean, is this really that bad? Think about it. The third step in that STAR process is to assess, and this is really where you ask yourself, what options do I have? Shifting your focus from the negative to the positive can help you see things from a different perspective. It's all about being intentional. Again, the process is about being intentional. And the last process here is to reflect. And this involves invoking a positive feeling. Bring to mind some experiences and positive emotions. Again, a scripture that says that, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are noble, whatsoever things are right. If there is any virtue, think on these things. Again, you have to be intentional about the things that you think on. There are people who just get upset not because someone did anything to them physically, but just by thinking about something, you realize that you're getting upset. So rather than thinking about those negative things, rather the things that trigger that feeling or that response, why don't you think on something positive? Think about the things that brings you joy. Think about things that bring you excitement. Think about things that gets you out of that rut into a place of goodness, into a place of peace, into a place of joy, into a place of gladness, into a place of gratitude. There's research that was done, and this was staggering, by the way, when I read this, that 1 5-minute episode of anger can impair your immune system for up to about 6 hours a day. 1 5-minute episode of anger. So by allowing yourself to be upset, or by allowing a situation or someone to get you to that point where you become angry for 5 minutes, can impact your day or your life by 6 hours. So if you think about this, is it really worth it? Allowing yourself to remain in that situation. And I get it. There are things that you're going to be upset, right? We're going to be upset. Things are going to happen. But what I'm saying is, rather than allow ourselves to get to that point where we're being ruled by this emotion, can we gain control? Because there are two things that can happen when you get to that place. Either your emotions control you, or you control your emotions. Either anger leads you to a place, or you gain control of that situation and take control of it. Which one are you going to do? Or what kind of person are you? Are you the kind of person that allows your emotion to be dragged on? Are you the kind of person that allows the feeling or the emotion of what you're going through to take you to that dark place? Or are you the kind of person who takes control over your emotion and rule it? Remember, again, it's being self-aware. It's that self-awareness. It's the ability to take control over anger. It's the ability to not to allow that anger to take you to that place where you don't want to be. Again, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Be angry, but do not sit. See, it's not healthy to stuff your anger, but it's equally unhealthy to vent it. Venting is actually the aggressive expression of anger where you're acting it out physically, often on yourself or other people, your family members, friends, or even in the workplace. There are folks who've lost their careers, they've lost businesses, they've lost relationships because they were not able to control their anger. And there are some also who think, I'm just going to speak my mind, I'm going to express it in whatever way I want and let the chips fall where they may. See, the sad thing is that sometimes those chips come back to bite us in places where we don't want. Some people feel that they must, put others in their place and just speak their mind during a disagreement and be confrontational. But these are all unhealthy choices and tactics that ends us or that takes us to a very bad place in life. Anger. And if you think about what's happened in our society, especially in the United States, and even some parts of the world, we see the effect of anger at play. We see emotions being expressed in some very bad ways. And again, I'm not going into all the details, and I'm not trying to, go into what caused it, what happened, and what. I'm just trying to look at it from a very practical point of view, looking at the root cause, looking at the emotion that's often at play. It's okay to protest. It's okay to express how we feel. But we've got to be careful the actions that we take or what we do during those situations. And I'm speaking from all sides. I'm not talking about one particular group of individuals versus the. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the emotion at play. So regardless of where you are, in the midst of all that, all I'm saying is that we've got to be very careful how we react, how we respond to this emotion of anger, or what we allow this emotion to do to us. And oftentimes we take these actions and we realize, oops, what was I thinking? Could I have done something very differently? But then by the time we get to that point, it may already be too late. Maybe it's a negative word that you say to someone without even thinking about it, but you realize that it's going to come back and haunt you. Maybe it's an action that you took emotionally, you reacted emotionally based on what you felt at that moment, only for this to come back and haunt you, only for you to regret the action. And some of these things are irreparable. You can do something bad, you can offend someone, you can tell them you're sorry, but the harm's already been done. They may never forget what you told them because words are that powerful. We can come back and make amends or try to take ownership, but the consequences of our actions may be irreparable. We may not be able to regain that time. We may not be able to recall those words. We may not be able to recall those actions. Why? Because we expressed them out of anger. So I want to leave you with this thought today as you go through life, and not to dwell on what's happening necessarily in our nation, in our economy, in our environment, but really in life in general. We got to be particularly careful about how we react when we're angry. Again, be angry, but do not sin. Do not allow the sun to go down on your anger. If you're upset at someone, if you're at loggerheads with someone, take the time today to make peace. Take the time today to reconnect. Take the time today to resolve the problem. Attack the problem. Work on the problem and not the individuals involved in it. Sometimes it's difficult for us to be able to separate ourselves from the situation that we're going through. And so instead of attacking the problem or trying to fix the problem, we ended up attacking or ruining the relationships that are involved in this process. Again, as I end this lesson, I hope you really got something out of it. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not allow the sun to go down on your anger. Whoever may be watching today, maybe you're dealing with some pain. Maybe you're dealing with some deep-seated issues. Maybe there's anger inside of you for whatever reason. And I get it. And I'm not minimizing that. Sometimes the righteous anger, the righteous indignation that we feel oftentimes lead to our ability to solve problems. So I'm not saying that we don't pay attention. I'm not saying that we overlook the way we feel it. All I'm saying is that if you have that emotion, that strong emotion, that anger in you that you realize is causing problems, it's ruining your relationship, or it's even affecting your health. And it can. Prolonged anger, deep-seated anger can impact your health. And sometimes you do yourself a favor by dealing with that anger rather than letting it fester, rather than allowing it to cause, a lot of problems, health-wise and all, ruining relationships. You'll be doing yourself a favor by attacking, by getting rid of that anger. So maybe you're watching and maybe you're upset at someone, you're upset at this situation. Maybe you're watching this and you're even upset, right? That we're talking about anger. I get it. But take some time. Stop. Think. Assess. And reflect. Stop. Ask yourself, what is it that's causing this anger? Name that anger. Is it worth it? And think through it. Think through it. Is it worth it? Practice that breathing exercise we talked about. Breathe in and out. Be still. Take some time to think about the very thing, about what's causing this anger, and see if it's really worth it. And the third step is to assess. What options do you have? Can I shift my focus from that negative situation and focus more on something positive that gets me in a much better mood? Assess. And lastly, reflect. Invoke a positive feeling. Bring to mind some experiences, some positive emotions. And realize that one 5-minute episode can ruin or can affect your day or your life for up to 6 hours. Is it worth it? And again, as I end, I want to leave you with that statement. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the enemy. And if you're listening to the podcast, whether it's on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or iHeartRadio, thank you. I appreciate you. And if you want to subscribe, if you're listening on iTunes and you want to hit that subscribe button, that ensures that you get new content every time they're released. Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending time with me on Time with Fred. Until next time.